Ulrich Spiesshofer, welcome to the Executive Talk here in a beautiful surrounding of the WEF in Davos.
Good morning.
You just told me it's your 9th World Economic Forum here in Davos. What's the importance when you look at your kind of yearly agenda, when you look at the WEF in Davos, what's the kind of scale of importance for you?
We always use the World Economic Forum at the beginning of the year to really calibrate, to understand what's going on the customer side, what's going on in the key countries of the world, to have a good exchange on priorities for the world leaders. So for me, it's a very, very good situation to touch base at the beginning of the year, to calibrate what you're doing and set the agenda right.
Do you even have time for the sessions or for the many themes and topics that people discuss up here? Or is it more kind of a bilateral meeting after bilateral meeting and just business as usual?
I think Davos, for me personally, is always a good mix between activities in the World Economic Forum, whether it's big-scale sessions or panels that I personally contribute, the International Business Leaders Council that gets together the key industrial leaders of the world that are part of the Global Economic Forum organization is one part of it. And then naturally, a lot of bilateral discussions with customers, with heads of state to make sure we're exchanging thinking.
Those bilateral meetings, they're very important in Davos. They're kind of almost like a part of the mystique of Davos, that people don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. Can you maybe elaborate or shed a light on that one? How can we imagine this? Is it really kind of top-level, one-to-one talks where the important things are discussed? Or is it more like a kind of touch base, as you say, and just keep in touch and know who you're dealing with?
No, I think it's a very, very important exchange of positions, of thinking, and making sure we listen to each other very, very carefully. I meet here a lot of my customers and understand what they really have on the agenda for this year. And it's also very efficient because otherwise I would need to travel for months to see the same amount of customer CEOs. I see heads of states, and given ABB's role in contributing to the changing world, I think this is a great opportunity. And in the larger forums, the discussions are also good because you can sense the temperature in the room, you can sense what's going on all together. So for me, the briefing papers that I get for Davos that my team is putting together are very, very significant. There are days like today where you have 17 different meetings that all need to be very carefully prepared.
Can you? I mean, for 17 meetings, can you be at the same level?
Well, you're going to start like this morning at 6:30 and you go all the way until 10 o'clock in the evening. It's exhausting, but it's a great investment and a great opportunity.
Speaking of meetings, you made world news last year because you were one of the 3 only Swiss CEOs that got to meet President Trump while he was up here. Quite honestly, if you meet him at a table like this with so many other people, so many other CEOs, is there even a chance to talk to him or even kind of bring ABB's agenda or issues across?
No, I think it is absolutely possible here. When you look at the smaller group meetings behind closed doors, you can really have a very open communication, whether it's with President Trump or with other heads of state. It's really good to engage that way. Today, Prime Minister Abe of Japan is here, and given our significant activities now that are touching Japan, we will have an exchange here. Mr. Bolsonaro is coming this afternoon for the International Business Leaders Council, and we have an exchange there. So this is a great opportunity to exchange thoughts and discuss with the global leaders. Last year in the discussion with President Trump, he was well aware what ABB is doing in the US. He was well aware of the GE Industrial Solutions transaction where we deployed significant capital to get even stronger in the largest economy of the world. So this is a great opportunity for us.
The US is a very important market for
Yes.
you. Are you disappointed that the American delegation cancelled their visit, that you can't meet President Trump this year?
Well, naturally, we respect the decision that is there. I'm frequently in the US. I'm basically once a month at least in the US and have the opportunity there also to meet the leaders. There are many other participants here that are equally important. We also have a lot of American CEOs and customers here that we can have an exchange. So I think it's still a good quality setup here.
What do you make of the general climate at the moment? 2019, there have been surveys also amongst global CEOs. The one from PricewaterhouseCoopers has been released this week as well. And there is quite a big amount of skepticism, if not pessimism, when they look at the global state of affairs and regarding the economy as well. Are you as pessimistic as your fellow CEOs?
Yeah, look, when you take the world, we came out of 2018 with good industrial growth momentum, and running into 2019, there would be an opportunity because the underlying growth momentum is there. Now, we need to say where the big economies are going in the second half of the year, whether it's the US, whether it's China, we need to watch that very carefully. But I think people are more concerned because the amount of uncertainties that we have in parallel at the moment. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainties that we have in parts of the world, in certain industry sector, in certain government situations, if you look at here in Europe. And it's quite natural that people say, I want to be cautious. What we do at ABB, we run our agenda with a very steady hand over many, many years. We are cautious on cost and capital, but we take the growth opportunities where they are. Because one thing is very clear, in a slowing world, competitiveness is even more important. Digitalization and automation are key sources of competitiveness going forward. So we have a role to play to make sure we allow our customers to take a share of the growth that's still out there, despite maybe a slowing economy.
However, I mean, if you steer that ship through, these stormy waters sometimes, how worried are you actually when you look at? I mean, you talked about the US and China. When we look at the trade tensions there, when we look at the Brexit, which is not at all clear what's going to happen, do these issues keep you up at night, or do you have enough problems within ABB that you can, that you have to deal with those first?
I think first of all, it's very important to sleep well and come back.
You still sleep well then?
In the morning. Secondly, I'm not worried, but I'm alert. I think it's very important as a responsible leader, when you have these short-term uncertainties that we have around us, that we really fly on site. That we have a good radar and see what's going on in the different parts of the world, that we have good radar, that we see what's going on in certain industry, and there Davos is really helpful to calibrate that. And then you want to be very active on growth, taking technology to help to grow. On the other hand, we are cautious on cost and on capital, because in times of uncertainty, you don't want to be overextended. You want to keep your powder dry to navigate the world even in uncertain times.
Speaking of uncertain times and times of uncertainty, you might say ABB is in the middle of that as well, because you're kind of changing not the business model, but you're shifting at least the business model as well. You've got rid, if I can say so, of the power grid section last year. You're going really heavily into these modern technologies. You spoke about digitization, and speaking of that, you must be very, very pleased, because even Professor Klaus Schwab, who hasn't always been so optimistic about the automation and about robotics, is on the cover of Time with the ABB robot, Yumi. Would you say that topic that is so fun and is so kind of close to your heart has finally arrived in the mainstream as well?
I think for us at ABB, we have announced before Christmas that we're going to focus ABB on digital industries, that we simplify the company, and that we position ourselves in leadership positions. It's very clear in the world around us, digitalization, automation, robotization, if smartly used, can drive competitiveness, can safeguard jobs, and drive growth. So it is very important that we take everybody with us in this thinking. If we look at the employment situation of the world has never employed more people than today. We have moved hundreds of millions of people from below the extreme poverty line. In 1990, 30% of the mankind lived below the extreme poverty line. Today, it's less than 10%, and technology has contributed to that. We're working closely with the World Economic Forum and other institutions to make sure we communicate that message. And we understand that responsible leaders will augment human potential with technology to drive employment and prosperity. It was very nice to see how finally the mainstream thinking today is robotization, artificial intelligence combined with human labor can really be the recipe for prosperity in the future.
But you do understand that some people are worried that they might lose their job due to all these changes and due to all this automation. How do you deal with those worries?
I think it's very important that we inform people and take them with us. I understand when people are worried, because it's true. jobs are changing at an unprecedented speed. We need to make sure that we take the people from the old job pattern into the new job pattern. And here we need to have a common action between governments, education bodies, and industry. If we team up to take the people with us, we have really an opportunity to get a better world in terms of employment, prosperity, and growth. That's the role as a responsible leader. And there we need to do two things. On the one hand, we need to inform that the anxiety of people goes away. A lot of people are concerned about robots. The truth is the countries with the highest robot density have the lowest unemployment rates. But we also need to make sure, absolutely, and then we need to take action in terms of educating people. Look at ABB ourselves. We used to be, in 2005 when I joined the company, we were approximately 19, 20 billion of revenue. We were 47,000 blue collar, and the rest of the 90,000 was then white collar people. Today, we are double the size of a company. We are a $36 billion company. We have 146,000 people, out of which 40,000, 42,000 are blue collar. So we have grown into a new shape, and we have responsibly invested in people. Take ABB here in Switzerland. We have steady employment despite the currency challenges, the high labor cost. And how did we do that? We invested in people, we took them with us, we gave them good training, whether it's on the university training that we support, the very important apprenticeship programs, the klassische Lehre that we have here in Switzerland, that we do that, and the lifelong learning, we invest in people. In the last years, ABB has completely revamped its education program from junior people all the way up to senior people to make sure we do this in a responsible way.
Since you speak about Switzerland, I'm sure people in Switzerland would love to hear that as well, that you talk about them and you kind of talk about their future as well. Can you give us an assurance that ABB will stay Swiss, will stay in Switzerland as well?
Absolutely. We have been in Switzerland for more than 100 years, and we will be in Switzerland for at least another 100 years. But we will continue to change our pattern. Our pattern in Switzerland is changing as it does in the world. Last night we had dinner with Uli Maurer, the federal president, and together with the vice president of China. And we talked about what is the changing role of Switzerland in the future. How can Swiss companies contribute? And I think if we continue to invest in education, if we play the strengths of Switzerland, and if we have a unified agenda where we have a clear regulatory environment, long-term certainty on the frame conditions that we have, including the pattern of collaboration with the EU, is established, then I'm optimistic about the future.
What about your future? You have had a troubled, or let's say a kind of a busy year, 2018, with at the end, as we said, that sale to Hitachi, the power grid section. You've had some criticism as well. How do you deal with that? And does that mean that you might say one day, I've had it, I'm going somewhere else?
Look, I'm in ABB now since in my 14th year. I have fun every day doing my role. And it's very important that in times of change and in times of transformation, you don't get nervous in terms of uncertainty, short-term comments that you have.
You said in an interview, I'm not a short-term guy.
We are very aligned between the board, the management on our direction. Between the announcement on the 17th of December and today, I'm at 3/4 of my share capital, was out there in Europe and in the Americas meeting all the shareholders, and the unanimous feedback is, do what you said you're going to do. This is the right thing to do. We are behind it. It's very clear. Short term, there will be some discomfort. There's a lot of change coming. We need to make sure we stay close to our customers and to our people, explain what we're doing, why we are doing it, and take them with us. But that's my job to do, and I have a lot of fun doing so.
A lot of fun, but I can imagine there's a lot of stress as well. When we talk about the shareholders, when we talk activist shareholders, of course there's the Sevian Group, probably the most famous one within ABB. They were pushing heavily towards that shift. You were kind of resisting some years, let's say, but in the end, I mean, they got their way, if you want. Honestly, does that hurt sometimes that you say, the pressure is really big?
No, I think as a CEO, it's important that you have an active listening with all of your shareholders. When somebody invests significant of money into ABB, he or she has the right to be listened to, and that's what I do with all the constituents. And it's really nice to see how it all has come together. Mind you, we started the discussions with Hitachi on a very small scale. In 2014, we established a local partnership in Japan, in power grids, to see what we can do for that economy, but also to see how the partners would get along. That partnership has grown. At the same time, we brought power grids back to strength. 2014, 13, 14, we really had problems. There was a legacy backlog that really kept us busy. We needed to strengthen the team. We needed to re-establish technology leadership. Today, the business is worth more than double what it was worth then. We are putting it now together with our long-term partner Hitachi. We focus on digital industries. And the nice thing is, the decision was taken unanimously in the board. Together with management, we are all aligned and go forward, whether that's Cevian or Investor, our very long-term shareholder, we are all aligned in the direction that we are taking.
Something I always wonder, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I have the impression you're in, as we said, in a highly kind of futuristic business, and you're with the trends of the future and everything. Am I wrong in saying that you might get rid of the, let's put it that way, a little bit unsexy parts of ABB, traditional, very old-fashioned in a way, and that you're aiming into the kind of more sexy and more booming and more trendy areas of the business, and that you personally prefer those businesses as well?
Look, what ABB's role has been and is today is that we write the future of the world, always in it for the next phase as a technology leader. When electrification came in the 19th century, ABB was at the forefront. When automation came in the 20th century, we were at the forefront. And when digitalization comes now in the 21st century, we are the forefront. ABB's soul is technology, pioneering technology leadership. That's what really the company is all about, and what I'm super proud of our team that we live that going forward. The next phase of the world is one phase where digitalization, automation, robotization will allow us to drive prosperity and growth, and that's our role as technology leaders, and that's how we are shaping the company. That means you need to strengthen certain parts of the portfolio for the future, but you also need to be ready to put parts of the portfolio in other hands to really focus.
Doesn't that mean that there is a risk of losing the heart of the company, the tradition, as people know, ABB or BBC as it was known before?
Look, I think the heart of the company is technology and people, and I'm really, really happy to see how we are moving into the future, how people, for example, embrace our ABB Ability offering. We are today truly leading in the B2B digitalization space. Just last week came a new survey that positions ABB in the top 2 bucket in the world as a leading player. Our team has achieved that. Our technology leadership has gotten us there. That's the soul of ABB. That's where we will invest and take the people with us in the future.
We see a proud CEO in front of us. And since you spoke about pride, let me completely change the topic for the end of the interview. You become Swiss a couple of years ago, I think. And you said when you got the passport, you said, I'm a very proud Swiss. What makes you so proud being Swiss? What is it that maybe pushed you as well to become a Swiss?
Look, we're living here since 2001. I live here since 2001 with my family. My boys have gone to school here or are going to school here. We're living in the local environment here, and we feel very, very good about Switzerland. I think Switzerland is a fantastic country to live in. It's a country where people are friendly, where with our neighbors we have great relationships, and where as a place where you want to raise your family and bring up your kids, it's a really good environment. I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity to live here. And for us, this is now the new home.
Mm-hmm. Final question, I always ask that everyone, that if you look forward, you're in a forward-looking business, as we said before. If you look forward on a private level, 20, 30 years from now, will you still be working? Will you be enjoying your Swiss neighborhood and your family? Do you do long-term plans? You said you're not a short-term thinker.
Look, I'm a long-term committed family dad, and absolutely I will be long-term also with my family. What I do professionally in 30 years, I hope I'm still alive and I can still contribute, but I don't want to speculate on that one.
Ulrich Spiesshofer, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.